さあこれからいよいよ選手たちは自動車専用道路から一般道へ入っていよいよ街の中心に向かっていきます。先頭グループとしては先頭になります山口、さらに市橋、そして高橋。結局ここまで見ていますと先ほどから先頭との差は8秒約30メートルぐらいで変わりません。山口もそれを追いかけていきません。市橋は日本勢の何かトップの選手をマークしていると言いましょうか、先頭グループの前の方に、ポジションを取っている。高橋は比較的おとなしめに集団の中段ですね。
そうですね。山口さんが引っ張っているこのペースもかなり速いと思うんですね。後ろの選手にしてみたらこのレンデルス選手のこの走りっていうのがかなりぶれてますよね。上下運動がありますからこれで行くわけない、だから様子を見ながら自分のペースを守ろうっていう形でかなり冷静に運んでると思います。
山口、市橋、左2821番はルーマニアのシモンではありません、ゲラシム。まもなく最初の5キロに差し掛かろうというところです。選手の左手には州立図書館、州議事堂、ホスピタル、旧造幣局というような、歴史的な建造物が並んでいます。右側はビジネス街、いよいよシティに入ってきました。16分30秒を過ぎました。先頭のレンデルスはもう間もなく5キロポイントですが、今通過しました。16分46秒。
レンデルスさんが16分46ですね。2時間21分のペースを刻んでますね。だけどもここ坂道でしたから大体これはもう17分ぐらいのペースになるかと思うんですね。平坦でしたらまずの飛び出しではないかと思います。
下り坂があった割には16分台の後半、
ちょっと自重気味ですね。
この辺りのレースをどう読むか、高橋尚子の監督小出義雄さんも言ってましたが、非常に厳しいコースというよりも難しいコース、タイムを追いかけていけば結果として金メダルがやってくるのか、あるいはやはりオリンピックという舞台、いかにこの顔ぶれであっても最後は駆け引きの勝負になってくるのか。
そうですね、やっぱり舞台がオリンピックとなると、やっぱりみんな勝ちを意識してますから、記録は後からついてくるっていうふうに考えていいと思うんですね。
なるほど。5キロの通過タイムでは手元の時計ですが、先頭グループと先頭を走るレンデルスとその後の第一集団との差は約15秒少し広がっています。選手の右手に広がるのがハイドパーク、そして今この大きな聖堂が見えてきました。シドニー最大のセントメリー大聖堂です。少し差は先ほどまでよりも広がっています。
もうレンデルスさんの気持ちとしてはもうこのまま行ってしまいたいっていう作戦なんでしょうね。
この後 24.5 キロぐらいまでは比較的平坦な道が続きます。その間にできることならもうすでに決着をつけたいという狙いでしょうか。
でまたマラソン経験が少ないということも、こんな風に果敢な飛び出しができる、また怖さを知らないという意味でもこういう走りにつながっていると思いますね。
高さ305メートルの AMP タワー、いよいよ街の中心です。差はむしろ広がっているぐらい、その先頭のグループの、ペースを作っているのは山口あるいはフェルナンデスというところでしょうか。さあ先頭を行きますこのレンデルスは間もなく6キロポイントに差し掛かります。6キロ地点には田畑アナウンサーがいます。呼んでみましょう。田畑さんどうぞ。
現在選手たちが走っておりますこのカレッジストリート南北に走っているんですけれども、今は穏やかな向かい風になっています。そしてですね、この先6キロ過ぎ 6.1 キロから南東にコースを変えましてオックスフォードストリートに入るんですが、そこからはですね選手たちにとっては追い風になっていきます。さあまず先頭のですねレンデルスが間もなく6キロポイントを通過するところです。さあ6キロを通過して、それでは、私のこの交差点に立っていますポイントから先頭レンデルスと2番手グループ、その集団のタイム差を測ってみたいと思います。さあ今レンデルスのタイムを取りました。この後にですね先導のバイクが5台ほど続いておりまして、そしていよいよ第2グループ日本選手、そして有力選手たちを含む第2グループが今私の目の前を通過いたします。今高橋、そして市橋、山口の姿が見えました。先頭のレンデルスと第2集団、そのトップの差は15秒と変わっておりません。そして選手たちは今背中が見えていると思いますが、この先ですねセンテニアルパーク方向に向かって走っていきます。この先のコースがこのシドニーオリンピックの中では最も平坦な部分となりますので、ここはひとまず安心して走れる部分ではないかと思います。さらにここは追い風になっておりますので、選手たちにとっては今がこのレースの中で一番安心して走れる部分ではないでしょうか。さあそしてここにはですね日本人がおよそ1万人ぐらい集まっているのではないでしょうか。両側の沿道にですね総延長1キロほど日の丸の旗がずらーっと続いています。日本の選手たちにとってはここはシドニーではなくてまるでその日本でのレースをしているような、そんな安心感を持って走れる部分だと思います。またここはですね復路 24.4 キロポイントにもなりますので、また復路の時にもこのポイントから選手たちの様子を伝えたいと思います。今最後の選手がですね間もなく6キロポイントに差し掛かるところなんですが、このポイントからのリポートは以上です。森下さん。
さあレース続いていますけれども、先ほど5キロ過ぎの給水ポイントで実は日本勢山口恵里選手がご覧のようにつまずいてこれ倒れたわけですね。特に問題ないと考えていいですかね。
そうですね、今の位置取り見ますとそんなに問題のある位置にいませんから、ちょっと本人は少しびっくりしたと思いますけれども、
このシーンです。
難しいんですね。
何事もなければいいんですが、今第2集団で山口選手、日本選手その他の2人と一緒に走っている状況です。
That will literally be going back now into the sunshine because the cloud cover's gone, the sun's come out, the racing is really starting. One significant thing that is happening is an Olympic gold and silver medalist is on the verge of falling out of the back of this front pack. Valentina Yegorova, who Marty mentioned lives in Gainesville, is barely hanging on, and she's not back there on purpose. If we can get a shot of her, she is just trying to hang on, and if you look you can see just a little gap of about 3 meters is developing. She's almost off the back. There's almost an invisible thread in the marathon of connection, just as there is in a track race, and you have to try to keep that connection. Once you get back 5-10 yards, the pack will just pull right away from you.
All right, they continue. You see Larupe and Aroma, and the Kenyans running together there. And Frank mentioned that often she has been paced unofficially by some of the male runners. The women's marathon, a relatively recent addition to the roster of events at the Olympics. First contested in 1984 in Los Angeles. And Joan Benoit, now Joan Benoit Samuelson, was the first gold medalist representing the United States.
Well, Frank was right about the fact of the shade. There is some shade in Centennial Park, but once they leave that, they won't see any shade till they get on the back stretch of the Olympic Stadium. And the sun here is very strong. There's a big difference between standing in the shade and being out in the sun. Interestingly enough, none of the women appear to be wearing hats because it was so cool and overcast at the start.
Marlene Renders, as you see, the sun indeed has come out, some patchy shade there, but it was overcast when the race began. But the sun now has come out. in the southern hemisphere, heading from winter into spring. And as we have found out during our days here in Sydney, that sun can be quite hot even though it's early in the season here down under. So of course for a summer Olympics this is cool weather compared to Atlanta or to Barcelona. Marlene Renders continues to track along with the lead, and the other runners just biding their time as they continue their track through Centennial Park.
What's been amazing is the crowds along the course. You know, it's 26 miles long. It's not, you know, there were huge crowds for the triathlon, but that was a small loop compared to this. And they're just huge crowds out there in the park. They've had to walk a long way to get to that point. And a lot of the people you see out there are waving Japanese flags.
And Dr. Christine Clark, the only American in the field, continues to toil along, but getting a little inspiration from that chap carrying the stars and stripes along with her. Back to Sydney in a moment. Welcome back to the Women's Olympic Marathon in Sydney. The gap between the chase pack and the leader Marlene Renders has narrowed as we were away, with Vichy Kante of Italy and Takahashi of Japan in closest pursuit of Marlene Renders. And in the chase pack is Tegla Larupe of Kenya, who's begun to fade just a little bit. She's the fastest woman ever in the marathon, and an Olympic gold medal would make her a hero in Kenya, which has never had a runner, male or female, win a marathon Olympic gold. But actually, to the women of her country, she's already a symbol.
少しバラバラっとした形になってきました。エントリーされた人数が全部で54人、アトランタの時よりも30人近く少ないメンバーですが、精鋭が揃った感じのこのシドニーの女子マラソン。2時間25分を切る選手が全部で13人いますが、それ以上のグループがまだ人数がこの中にいます。さあ追いかけていこうか。少し集団から前に出てきたのがイタリアのビスコンテ、白いユニフォーム、2248番の選手。
アトランタオリンピックでは棄権をしてしまってるんですよね。
ただこの人も今年のウィーンで2時間23分47秒23分台の記録を持っている選手です。
強い選手ですね。
イタリア勢ビスコンテがベルギーのレンデルスを追いかけにかかりました。さあこれにもついていかないのか日本選手、どうでしょう。いや、市橋さんはつくと思うんですね。市橋さんは必ず誰か飛び出すともう右横左横につきますね。今給水があったんですね。で取るかなと思いましたけども取りませんでした。市橋さん5キロも10キロも取ってないですね。山口さんはもうしきりと体に水をかけてますね。高橋尚子さんはもう自分が作ったスペシャルドリンクを必ず5キロ10キロ取ってますね。このビスコンテのペースが上がってますね。かなり上がってますね。 ビスコンテは詰めてきました。
急に上がってますからちょっと誰もついてません。前
2人2時間23分台のタイムを持っている2人をまだ日本勢も追いかけていきません。この差は詰まってきました。
急に上がったんで、市橋有さんが普通はつくんですけども、ちょっとこう急に対応できない状態でしたね。
今度は後ろのグループ高橋が一番前に来ましたか。
高橋さんにしてみてもやっぱりここで逃げられたら、ちょっと危ないなっていう気持ちがあると思うんですね。必ずつくと思います。
一つの予想としては、去年の東京でも見せたように山口が思い切ったレースをして先頭にポンと飛び出すパターン、あるいは高橋も、持続する圧倒的なスピードを持って最初から他の選手の戦意を喪失するかのようなね、猛スピードで走り抜けるかという予想もありましたが、それはありません。日本選手は比較的慎重な試合運びでこのオリンピックのマラソンメダルを狙っています。
冷静で良かったと思いますよ。やっぱりこれはもうオリンピックの舞台ですから、勝ちを意識すると思いっきりがいいのもいいですけども、後半の盛んなことを考えるとこういう展開になるんですよね。
さてこれで 一つの集団になりましたね。かなりレンデルスのペースが遅れてきたという形なんでしょうか。完全に集団の中に吸収されましたレンデルス。
でもこのビスコンテ選手のような選手がこう思いっきり飛ばしてくれてよかったですね。
そうですね。
本当の意味でレースがここから始まるっていう感じになりましたね。
あっという間の出来事ですが、逃げていたベルギーのレンデルスが集団の中に吸収されて、逆にイタリアのビスコンテの方が先頭というところでしょうか。日本3選手固まっています。それぞれが自分自身の最高のものをこのオリンピックの場でアピールしたい、そういう思いを胸に万全の準備を整えてこのシドニーにやってきました。
今3選手が並んでましたけども、3選手ともに本来の一番いい時のリズムですね今日は、ですから本当にいい具合にここまで来てると思いますよ。
エチオピアで見えるのは1667番のアレム、画面の一番右上ですね。ユニフォームといい髪型といい、ロバ選手に似てますが、アレム、
長野マラソンでも優勝して、本当にこの腰から下が柔らかいいい走りをする選手ですね。
知名度ではロバには譲りますけれども、シモンが言ってましたが、ロルーペとこのエチオピアではアレムが怖いというね、そのアレムも先頭グループです。
やはり今回の後半の坂なんか考えますと、アレム選手のこの力強くて柔らかい走りっていうのが坂道に適してるんですね、それから心肺機能も強いってことを聞いてますので、多分シモンさんはその辺が強敵と思われる理由なんだと思います。しかしこの市橋さんは見事ですね、人の後ろにこうつきながら上手に前の選手を観察するこの位置取りといい、この目の視線といい、いつもの市橋さんですよ。
日本勢はまるでこうチームを組むかのように3人がまとまっています。イタリアのビスコンテ、それからベルギーのレンデルス、さらにルーマニアのゲラシムに続いて日本勢3人。ケニアはロルーペ、チェプチュンバ、先頭グループの中にいます。まもなく13キロ。2時間23分47秒のタイムを持っていますビスコンテ。ルーマニアの中ではシモンの姿はこのグループの中にまだいますでしょうか。前にいる黄色いユニフォームはアリナ・ゲラシム、2時間28分台のタイムを持っている選手です。
シモン選手、最初の5キロの時にはちょっと前の方を走っていました。だけどこの集団の中には必ずいると思いますね、シモン選手も今回のコースだったら後半が勝負になるって、あそこから勝負が始まるなんてことを言ってましたので、かなり力を温存していくと思いますね。
しかし世界の、シモンでありロルーペでありという選手が集団の中にはいるにしても目立ったところへはまだ出てきませんね、
シモンさんいますね。ちょっとこの背中を丸めて走るのがシモンさんなんですね、アレムさんの後ろにいるのがシモンさんですね、どうやら。
これは後方グループでしょうか。2070番のハンガリーのホルディン・ナジ、左に見えました。
この選手も2時間28分で走ります。
選手たちはセンテニアルパークから再びこの道、大きなアンザックパレードという道に戻ってきました。
Turning home from recording the audio on that feature on Larupe in the Atlanta airport, I happened to meet a young woman from Kenya, and I said, "Do you know Tegla Larupe or know of her?" And her face lit up. She says, "Oh yes, she is the most famous woman in my country, and she has inspired me to run. Someday I hope to run as fast as she." It was really a great moment.
Yeah, you know, she's just such a nice person, and everybody in the sport loves her. She's very outgoing. She's a very special person that's going to do a lot in life when she stops running.
Only 88 pounds and struggling along now, appearing to lose ground. Is that right, Frank?
She is totally off the back, Tom. And there was a very significant moment there when Joyce Chipchumba, who is her training partner, took a look around to see where she was, and I think it was in disbelief, because Joyce has always been running literally in the shadow of Tegla LaRupe, and now her training partner is apparently out of the Olympic marathon. You don't come back. She's not there resting just to recover and come back. And the pack has absorbed Marlene Renders, and that was done mainly because Mora Visconti from Italy just took the lead and ran hard after that last aid station, and that's when Tegla LaRupe just dropped off the back. She hesitated to the back of the pack, made sure she got something to drink. It could be that she's got stomach problems, but she's lost about 150, almost 200 meters now. That's 30 seconds. Oh, this point in the marathon, she would be considered out of it. To tell you who I think is running very well, if you look to the right of the screen, you can see Fatima Roba, number 1673, just jogging right along, and she's been looking around counting the number of people in that lead pack. She's on the right there, 1673, the defending Olympic champion. There are now 20 women in this lead pack. No surprises really, except that Tegla LaRupe seems to be out of it so early.
Well, let me just add one thing about Tegla. She is entered into 10,000 meters. She was running on the track all summer in Europe as if she were preparing to run a good 10,000 meters. She may have had a lot of pressure from her country to run the marathon, but her heart may have really been in the 10,000 meters. Run that, win it, and then maybe run a fall marathon where there's a lot of money at stake.
Well, Marty, that's a very good point, because you just don't tick these things off. I mean, you just don't go out and say, okay, I think I'll run a marathon. You generally start a 12-week program out, just like the Japanese do. You can see them right there at the front of the pack. They've been training for this for at least 6 months, focusing on nothing else but today. And I think truly to win the Olympic marathon, that's what you have to do. I don't think the days of being able to run on the track in Europe and just come out and run a marathon, I think, are over. But both Kenyan women are at the back of the pack right now, and Joyce Chipchumba keeps looking around here. I think maybe she's wondering, I hope Tegla comes back, but LaRupe is out of it at this point.
And the new leader of that lead pack is Mora Visconti of Italy, the Italian national record holder. Her second Olympic marathon. She ran in Atlanta but didn't finish. The Japanese are very prominent here. The Japanese women have been running as a team. 3 of them have been there all the way. They continue to move along in the lead pack. Lydia Simone in the yellow is also moving up, and Marlene Renders just behind her was the early leader, but they've reeled her in, as you see. And Fatima Roba, the defending champion, in the green, right in the center of your picture there, or on the inside, actually, along the blue line, is looming very boldly.
And
but
now
Visconti,
now you see they are going for the sponges because the sun is out and the temperature is climbing.
So Mora Visconti of Italy has taken the short lead, and the lead pack is compact now, having taken in the early leader Renders, and still well bunched as they continue through Sydney. In small neighborhoods, and the University of New South Wales is in this area. Sydney is a part of that state, New South Wales, and Anzac Parade is the name of the road. Anzac, if you may not be familiar with it, stands for Australian and New Zealand Army Corps, a term first coined during World War I. You may be familiar with the battle at Gallipoli in Turkey, in which British generals kept sending the Anzac forces over the top, and most of them were killed. It is a very emotional battle still to this day in Australia and New Zealand, and commemorated on the anniversary of that battle. And so the Anzac Parade, named in commemoration of the Anzac forces, and before too long the runners will head toward Anzac Bridge, which is a distinctive feature here in the Sydney area. A ways to go till then, though. They'll first continue down Anzac Parade, and then turn around and come back. The Anzac Bridge is actually world famous. It's been featured in a lot of commercials and is kind of an emotional thing about the name of it. When it was first built, it was called Glebe Island Bridge, but the name changed to Anzac Bridge in '98. And guess what? Jim Gray is on Anzac Bridge awaiting the arrival of the runners. I hope you've gotten some coffee too, because you start to think you can see Homebush Bay and your destination by the time you reach that Anzac Bridge.
Yes, always dangerous when you can see the finish line, because finish lines always look closer than they really are. But psychologically, when you're on the highest point that you're going to climb, and then even though there are rolling hills, it's downhill towards the finish line, you start to get a lot more enthusiasm about picking up the pace.
The new leader, Adriana Fernandez of Mexico, has been very prominent throughout the race so far, 29 years old. How's she looking, Frank?
She took off right after a water station just past the 15-kilometer point, or about 9.3 miles, just to stretch the pack out. I think there was a slight rise. She ran hard up that rise, took a little look to the side to see if anyone was going with her, and now we're at the point where people are going to be covering moves. That's Ari Ichihashi from Japan, goes right with her. Marlene Renders, who isn't giving up here, she was caught. She led for so long, and now she's just settled right in there. People starting to go off the back, but there's still 20 women at about 10 miles into the Olympic marathon, and they're running at mid 2 hour and 20 minute pace, about 2:25 pace. They were 17:15 pace per 5 kilometers coming past 15 kilometers, about 5:30 a mile, just cruising along. And I think what really is going to happen here, Marty, is the heat, because Fatima Roba at the last station did not take any water. She cut the tangent, let everyone else go over to the tables, because what's interesting to me on this course is that they do set the tables off from the blue line. They should set them a little closer, I think, and so you have a choice. If you're a runner, you're thinking, I'll save 10 meters literally if I don't have to go over to the table, pick something up, and come back. But now we have to see, Marty, what happens as the heat begins to take its toll, because what was dry hair at the start is now beginning to get wet, runner by runner by runner.
Starting to heat up. I noticed the last time they went through the water stop, there was a lot of movement, crisscrossing. It looked like a fire drill, kind of dangerous. You have to really keep your wits about you.
And Adriana Fernandez on the left of your screen, a slight lead, but there are 20 women still in the lead pack in the women's marathon. Back at Olympic Stadium, we'll have opening heats in the hurdles coming up in just a moment. Reaching the turnaround point on this street, they're just over 11 miles into the race. And there are the leaders, Adriana Fernandez of Mexico and Ichihashi of Japan have been running together lately, but the lead pack still quite large, including Fatima Roba, the defending Olympic champion. They're heading to Olympic Stadium, but Olympic Stadium has lots of other stuff going on while the runners.
お、高橋出ましたか。
出ましたね。
高橋ちょっと飛ばします。
飛ばしましたね。これはでも早いですよ。急激に上げましたから、ついてこれないでしょう、普通の選手は。
高橋選手のスピードとスタミナはアメリカコロラド州での高地合宿で培われました。
In the marathon have turned back around and are heading back down Anzac Parade, and the new leader is Naoko Takahashi of Japan, and her teammate Ari Ichihashi has also joined her there. So the Japanese, 3 of them have been running as a team in the chase pack and then in the lead pack, and now they have moved right to the front.
Well, our scouting report was right on the money. They said that Takahashi was fast and impetuous and would break the race open early. So they're right on the money. What's interesting about her, she has a voracious appetite. She has eaten 40 pieces of sushi and 5 pounds of steak, not at one time. She likes to go to she likes to go to all-you-can-eat restaurants. She went for 6 days in a row one time.
We could introduce her to C.J. Hunter. They could have a nice time together. They could go to dinner. More hurdling, more marathon to come from Sydney. Two Japanese runners have taken over leadership in the women's Olympic marathon in Sydney. Ari Ikahashi and the leader at the moment, Naoko Takahashi.
And it has really shaken things up. There were 22 women in the lead pack just before the Japanese moved to the front, and that's been decimated now. They're strung out single file because they're all struggling to stay with this increase in the tempo. And a lot of the favorites not in that first 5 women right there. Roba of Ethiopia, one of the people who you would think would be able to go with the pace at this point. And Larupe more than a minute back at last record. So some of the big favorites that we're familiar with from winning the big marathons in the United States are not up there.
And the Japanese runners declining the water as they pass the water station. Some of the other runners.
Well, sometimes that's a strategic plan. It's almost like stock car racing, what you're going to do when you go into the pit stop. Joan Benoit Samuelson passed up the first water stop at the LA Olympics and kept on running when everyone else stopped to drink. She had fueled up before the race, and that turned out to be a turning point in the race.
Now they did stop and get some water. Frank, how are the Japanese looking in front?
They look very, very good, Tom. Takahashi just took off with 15 miles to go. Just when they rounded the corner at 11 miles, heading literally back towards the stadium, she took off. Ichihashi went with her. And curiously enough, Esther Wanjiru, who also lives and trains in Japan and runs for a Japanese corporate team, went with them. And then Lidia Simone, the woman I mentioned earlier, who's very, very good at running in women's only races. So Takahashi has taken this race by the throat, literally. She's gone early, but there's a history in marathons of going early. I went at 15K. She has gone a little bit later than that. You can go, string them out, get a lead, and then hang on. But right now, everyone is just struggling to bridge the gap, Adriana Fernandez is now in 5th place, trying to bridge that gap. And if Takahashi can keep the pressure on for about 3 more miles, I would predict this pack in the front's going to be 3 women.
Well, the Japanese train in Boulder, so does Simone. You must be familiar with them, Frank.
I'm very familiar with them. In fact, Lidia Simone's agent is a Japanese man, so there is really a Japanese connection up here at the front of this pack. So you have 2 women from Japan who train in Boulder, Colorado. Lidia Simone, who spends time there training in Boulder, Colorado. And then Esther Wanjiru, who lives and trains in Japan and runs for a corporate team. It's good to see Adriana Fernandez coming back here. She will try to bridge that gap. Again, there is an invisible thread there that she has to grab onto, and if she can gain another 3 or 4 meters, she can grab that thread and get pulled back up into the pack. And as Marty said earlier, you can play off the rhythm of the other runners. And right now, Ari Ichihashi is really running smartly. She's running right on her countrywoman's shoulder, relaxing, and now she's counting people up in the front pack.
So Takahashi of Japan, her teammate Ichihashi, and right behind them, Lidia Simone of Romania, then back to Fernandez and Wanjiru. Those are the top 5 as they're past the 13-mile mark. 1 hour, 11 minutes in. We not only will have more marathon coming your way, but more hurdling too when we return to Olympic coverage from Sydney, Australia.
There's a few gaps happening, and the Japanese have made.
Women's marathon continues. The lead pack now has been reduced to 3. Naoko Takahashi and Ari Ichihashi of Japan and Lidia Simone of Romania. They've just passed the halfway point of the marathon. Tegla Larupe of Kenya is 1:25 behind the leaders. The fastest woman marathoner of all time, doesn't appear to be in contention here in Sydney. So Takahashi, Ichihashi, and Simone, well, back to the marathon, the same three leaders as we had before. Takahashi, Ichihashi, and Simone, with Fernandez of Mexico behind them in fourth place. Marty, what's happened since we were watching the hurdles?
Well, the Japanese continue to lead and to look good. Lidia Simone over on the left there, probably coming up to a water stop and going out, well, getting her water. The surprise is Fernandez has not been able to close the gap and has, in fact, dropped back with Esther Wanjiru. But the Japanese look very good.
Mentioned Simone getting the water there when she took the bronze medal at the World Championships in Athens. She became sick several times during the race and had to be treated for dehydration, so she knows how important it is to stay hydrated during the marathon, trying to become the first Romanian athlete to win an Olympic marathon medal.
Well, a little bit more on some of the Japanese women. Takahashi became interested in the sport because she was fascinated by track spikes and the starter's pistol. Of course, she eventually moved up in distance, and now she's in an event where you don't wear track spikes.
So Takahashi, Ichihashi of Japan, Simone of Romania, the three leaders in the women's marathon, with more marathon and more hurdles still to come.
So McCann having a good run, but we've got three out in front: Takahashi, Ichihashi, both of Japan, and Lidia Simone of Romania. So at halfway they were on 2:23 pace. It was very quick. Wanjiru is the fourth runner, just in the background there from Kenya. This is Takahashi, who was really the instigator of the move. She made the first break. Ichihashi quickly went with her, and Simone, and then probably half a dozen came down to 4 or 5, and now we've come down to 3. But there's a lot of running left to be done in this race, but she looks pretty good.
Yeah, she's looking good, Bruce, and a good aggressive move at the turnaround on Anzac Parade. She's taken the lead back there and has maintained it, pushing the pace down a couple of minutes and completely disintegrated that lead pack of 12 or 15 runners that have just been scattered in the wake behind her. But there's still a lot of running to go. Lidia Simone back there looking pretty comfortable too. Wanjiru, who has decided that she wants to try to get back up with this lead group of 3. So she'll work hard over the next couple of K and try to make contact. But this lead group of 3 are doing all of the running at the moment, following that blue line around another one of the corners. The corners breaking up the rhythm of these runners. A downhill section. It is a very difficult course, and it will be taking its toll on the legs and the muscles of these runners, and I think that will be called in over the last 5 kilometres of the race. So there's a 7-second gap, which is not an enormous amount, but she's opened that up over about the last 3 or 4 kilometres. So it's fairly significant, but it's still quite possible to pull that in over the closing half of this marathon, because there's still a lot of hard running.
Just past the 15-mile mark, the runners in the women's marathon. They continue their way through the streets of Sydney. And they've passed the halfway point. They've turned around and headed back up the Anzac Parade, headed in a little downhill stretch now through the CBD, Central Business District of Sydney. And the leaders remain Takahashi and Ichihashi.
先頭が高橋とシモン、その後に市橋、そして市橋を追いかけてチェプチュンバ現在第4位、さらにメキシコのフェルナンデス、ケニアのワンジロと続いています。市橋がぽつりと画面の左の方に見えます。その後のチェプチュンバとはどれぐらいの差があるのか、また後ほど情報が入ってきたらお伝えしようと思います。
動きからすると先ほど坂を登っていたチェプチュンバさんがかなりバテてましたよね。市橋さんはいい動きしてますんで、後ろからこう差を 縮められるっていう感じではないと思うんですね。ですからこのリズムを市橋さんは維持してほしいですね。そしたら銅メダルですものね。
そうですね。いつも一緒に練習をしているわけではありませんが、アメリカコロラド州のボルダーを本拠地にしてトレーニングしている2人、高橋とシモン。しかし高橋の場合は今年は8月に入ってからですか、標高 1600m から3500m の超高地トレーニングをしたと聞いてます。
はい、それでね、すごく自信をつけたようですね。小出義雄監督は女の子はやっぱりこれをやったんだっていう自信がなければ、いい気もしてスタートラインに立てないから、だから私はその心肺機能を高めるということよりも、なんか精神的な面で直子さんに自信をつけさせたかったのかなと思いましたね。
そのスピードにシモンはついてきます。できることなら一人旅、それを狙いたかった高橋。しかし、予想された選手の一人のシモンがここについてきた。小出監督も含めてドルーペをまず第一に警戒してました。シモンに対する見方はどの程度だったのか。
やっぱり怖いって言ってましたよ。シモンさんは勝負強いですから、30キロ以降にその集団の中にいた時には怖いって言ってましたね。ボルダーという10キロレースでも、高橋尚子さんは1分以上差をつけられて負けてるんですよ。でシモンさんにしてみたら一緒に競った大会がそれだけですから、もう圧倒的な自信を持ってるわけなんですね。
まもなく選手たちは30キロにかかろうとしています。比較的この辺りは前半の観光スポットをくぐり抜けていた辺りとは違って少し単調な風景にはなっています。
今並んで走ってますけども、気持ちの上ではリディア・シモンさんの方が余裕があると思うんです。なぜならば高橋さんはここに来るまで多分相手がいるってことはあんまり考えてなかったと思うんですね。リディアさんの場合にはこの地点ではまだ 7,8 人いると思ったんですよ。レースが始まる前は。で今この2人だけで勝負してますよね。マークするのは直子さんだけですよね。かなりこの辺の気持ちの違いっていうのは大きいと思うんですね。
続いて第3位、現在市橋がちょうど27キロアンザックブリッジで前のスピードについていけなくなりました。現在第3位、その後にはケニアのチェプチュンバがいます。約市橋までは先頭の2人からは24秒の差です。そしてその後ろにいるのがジョイス・チェプチュンバ、ワンジロをかわして現在第4位。
チェプチュンバ選手もロンドンマラソンで3位に入るなど、本当に今年は強いランナーですよね。
そうですね。かつてはいつもロルーペのトレーニングパートナー、こういう言われ方がしていたチェプチュンバではありますが、ロルーペを脅かす存在にはなってきました。市橋まで23秒、そしてその市橋からは18秒差で現在チェプチュンバがいます。
ロルーペさんと一緒にチェプチェンバさんは練習していても、ロルーペさんはトラック練習が好きなんですって。チェプチェンバさんはトラックの練習が大嫌いで、インターバルトレーニングなどを、ロードで行っているようですね。
そのチェプチュンバが市橋の後どうでしょう、80メートルぐらいの後方にいます。表情はどうですか、高橋の。少し今歯が見えましたが、サングラスでなかなかその奥までは見えません。
この直子さんは後輩になってもすごく追い込む、がむしゃらに限界までっていうレースはあまりしてないですね、今まで。いつも口元が柔らかいですよね。
この差になっています。
ちょっと追われてますね。
Very well, Bruce. Coming up to the 30k marker now. 142.
さあ30キロポイントが近づいてきました。30キロポイントには四谷秀原アナウンサーがいます。四谷さん。
はい、今30キロ地点を2人が並んで通過しています。もう見たところですね、このシモンと高橋、表情という点ではほとんど差は感じられません。2人ともまだまだという感じですが、この辺りずーっと緩い坂が上り坂になっていまして、きつい部分です。風はわずかに向かっています。強い日が選手の背中から当たっている格好です。30キロ地点は静かな住宅街、リディーフィールドと呼ばれる住宅街、 今3位の市橋がやってまいりました。すでに先頭の2人から30秒以上が経過しています。市橋があと10メートルほどで30キロ地点です。まもなく今通過、手元の時計で43秒の差があります。高橋志門とこの市橋の差が43秒。そして今4位の選手8秒差、およそ8秒差で通過していきました。セプテンバとこの市橋の
29-year-old mum from Kenya, and in front of her, Ishihashi.
It's about 2:25 pace through 30k. So it's slowed down a little bit from the 2:23, 2:24 pace that we saw earlier. You can get an indication of the gap that this lead group of two have opened up, and they're gradually pulling away from Chepchumba of Kenya. And I can't help but think that Simon is looking pretty good there and has got I'd say a good chance to win this race, although it's still very early, so it's hard to tell. Takahashi grabbing her special drink, little loop to grab that as she runs past. She's actually got two drinks there. Probably one's a fairly concentrated electrolyte and glucose drink. The other one will be water to replenish some of the lost fluid. A lot of it.
It's not so deep at this particular point, but on the left, as you can see, we have had huge crowds out here, and nothing wrong with Kieran's form, which suggests that LaRoupe's gone past her, but LaRoupe is running really well. So we're thinking about 10th, 11th place for this group at the moment. Takahashi and Simon are leading by 20-odd seconds from Ishihashi, and then about another 15 to 20-second gap to Chepchumba. But look at the support for Kieran McCann, and still running strongly.
Yeah, she's still running.
He continues too. The three leaders remaining in front and have a considerable distance between the chase pack. It's Takahashi, Ichihashi, and Simone. We'll be right back. The women's Olympic marathon runners approaching the Anzac Bridge. You see the distinctive spires of the Anzac Bridge there. They're making way toward the bridge, and let's go down to the bridge now where Jim Gray is. Jim?
Well, Tom, the anticipation really growing down here. People have been gathering since 5 a.m. They're in all
レース後半、高低差30メートルを一気に駆け上がるアンザックブリッジ。
アップダウンのある難コース。市橋が少し遅れ始めます。
They'll be joining you shortly. Naoko Takahashi of Japan, Ari Ichihashi of Japan, and Lidia Simone are the leaders in that three-pack. They have about a 19-second lead over Wanjiru and Fernandez. There they are chasing the leaders. And that's the lead pack, actually. It is Takahashi in front, Simone second, and Ichihashi, Marty's fallen back just a bit now.
There were a number of attempts by Takahashi in the sunglasses to break open the race and make moves on some of the little hills, and the other two women didn't show any weakness. And now on this really long upgrade, she's finally been able to drop her countrywoman Ichihashi, but Simone stays right with her.
A little uphill grade now as they come to the Anzac Bridge, and as they top that rise, Jim and all the other spectators stationed on the bridge will be able to see them. This bridge is very distinctive. They had to get special permission to use it in a lot of automobile commercials seen around the world. The reason they had to get permission was because it's almost sacred ground to people in this country, because it's named in honor of the Australian and New Zealand forces who fought so gallantly through 2 world wars, and first adopting that Anzac name during the Great Wars, they call it, World War I. And now across the Anzac Bridge, Takahashi and Simone. Simone was 6th in the marathon in Atlanta.
A seasoned competitor. Now, Takahashi has run on this course before. In a previous marathon, she came and she ran the first half of the race quietly and then dropped out and drove the second half of the course. You can be assured that the Japanese have really had a lot of experience over the course and know when they want to make their moves, know when the good spots are to do that.
Takahashi leads, Simone is second, as they begin to sort themselves all out across that Anzac Bridge. As they reach the far end of that bridge, there is a statue of an Anzac soldier commemorating those forces. Simone, the Romanian rocket, but testing her endurance today and staying right on the shoulder of Takahashi.
Takahashi's path to this Olympic dream hasn't been easy. She wasn't a great runner in high school, and when she got out of college, she wanted to join a company team, and they said, well, you're not good enough, but you can come up to the camp at your own expense and train with us. And they were doing a workout where they were running 1,000 meters in 3 minutes, which was her best time, and she did 6 of them with them at just over her best time. And they say, yeah, we think you've got what we're looking for. You can stay.
Beautiful scene across the Anzac Bridge. Takahashi and Simone running at a fairly quick pace, a pace they can maintain, Marty?
Well, it really depends on the sun. It's hard to predict the final time that we might see here on a course that there haven't been a lot of marathons, and certainly no marathons where runners of this quality have competed. So the time is really secondary. This is a woman against woman race, and over the last 3 or 4 water stops, this has been the drill. They've been trying to bathe themselves down, so we know it's hot out there, and that plays a big part in who's going to win the race. The person who is able to handle the heat in many times will beat someone who's a better runner who can't handle the heat. And the Japanese have been known to go to places where they will condition themselves in warmer temperatures.
Downhill off the bridge now, about the 17-mile mark in their 26.2-mile trek, following that blue line. And you know, the Australians are famous for not taking anything too seriously. Some jokesters painted out the blue line and repainted it through a pub. But they repainted it, and the runners following it all the way to the stadium. While we were watching the marathon in the stadium, Alan Johnson, the defending Olympic champ to the marathon. It continues to be Takahashi and Simone, the leaders, as they continue now uphill through the streets of Sydney, heading to Olympic Stadium. View of the route the marathoners are taking through the suburbs of Sydney now, along the tracks on one side, residential areas just beyond the tracks. Takahashi of Japan, Simone of Romania continue to lead. They have about 26 seconds on the other Japanese runner, Ichihashi. Chipchumba of Kenya is in the 4th spot at the moment, with the 2 leaders virtually right together. Naoko Takahashi and Lidia Simone. There's Ichihashi in 3rd.
Well, the question is, will Ichihashi be able to hang on to 3rd? She has Joyce Chipchumba closing on her. Chipchumba won the London Marathon twice in 97 and 99. But perhaps the race for 1st and 2nd has been decided. It's just the gold medal that's up for grabs. But as Frank is well aware, we say 20 miles is halfway in a 26-mile marathon, because that's when your body starts to run out of energy and things can change quickly.
Frank, what's your assessment of the 2 leaders at this point?
Together, they're working together, because as Takahashi will take the lead, and she really pushed it up the Anzac Bridge and down over the other side. And what was significant there was Lidia Simone went right with her, and then when they came to the next water stop, Simone actually forged ahead a little bit and helped push the pace a little. She runs right up on Takahashi's shoulder just to tell her, look, I'm feeling fit, but it also helps. They're working together, because pretty soon, somewhere between 20 and 26 miles, it would become a race between the 2 women. But as Marty said, anyone who's run a marathon will tell you the first half is the 20-mile mark and the second half is the last 6. So they'll pretty much work together until then. But they really gained a lot coming over the bridge and down, which tells me they're the 2 fittest women in this race, because that's where they gained about 30 seconds on everyone who was behind them. They were really getting closed upon going up the bridge for a little bit. In fact, it looked like Adriana Fernandez was trying to close the gap. But when Takahashi ran up the Anzac Bridge so hard, it just put them right out in front just that much further. So right now it's a two-woman race.
All right, they're about 39 seconds back to Ichihashi in third, and another 14 seconds after that to fourth place, as they are 17 miles into the marathon. Takahashi and Simone continue to lead. Can anybody reel them in at this point, Marty?
Oh, sure. There's still plenty of time to go, but it seems like the women behind them are falling back. Someone's got to come out from that crowd, and we don't know if there's a real quality runners who's back there in 6th or 7th that could close the gap. But things can happen dramatically in a marathon, especially when the temperatures are up around 70 degrees. So it's far from over. They have been averaging 5:27 per mile, which puts them on a pace for a 2:23 final time.
Ichihashi of Japan in third and nearly 40 seconds behind the two leaders. There they are, Simone and Takahashi.
One of the few places where they're able to get shade, and if you think it doesn't make a difference in a race like this to be in the shade even for 30-40 seconds, go out and run 20 miles and you'll start to appreciate the value of shade. Look at the crowds.
Meanwhile, a couple of the favorites, Tegla LaRupe, fastest woman marathoner ever, is back in the pack, 1:47 behind the two leaders.
And I'm at a loss to explain why she would continue running if she plans to come back and run the 10,000 later in the race, unless she thinks that the people in front of her are going to do a big collapse and she's going to be able to close for a medal.
Well, certainly maybe some pride involved, but like you say, not much logic there. Meanwhile, her teammate is closing in on third, Chipchumba.
Chipchumba's a quality runner. As I said, she won the London Marathon twice, and in fact has won the most money ever by a woman in a marathon. She got $230,000 for winning the London Marathon and setting a world best time for the marathon in an all-women's race.
She's Tegla LaRupe's training partner and is in her second Olympic marathon. In Atlanta, she failed to finish, but she has just passed Ichihashi to take over third place and is trying to close on Takahashi and Simone, the leaders. Beautiful view of the Sydney area. This city interspersed with not only the harbor, but lakes and rivers and waterways everywhere you turn. They're heading toward Olympic Stadium and the finish of the women's Olympic marathon. The Romanian rocket not only is known for her speed, but for her toughness, and she's hanging right in there with Takahashi. Back in third place, Joyce Chepchumba has taken over a clear third.
Yeah, one of the things that the huge crowds are going to do, as the leaders go by these crowds, they will not be able to hear themselves think. The other thing they won't be able to hear is the crowd noise when Joyce Chepchumba comes by. Because normally in a marathon, if there's not a lot of people, you hear the cheering and you know a person in third place is moving up on you. They're not going to know that. If Joyce is able to catch them, she's going to be able to sneak up on them. You have to be careful in a situation like this where you've broken away two people. You think, okay, this is a race for the gold medal now, but it may not be. It may be a race for the bronze medal if you're not careful.
Chepchumba's Kenyan teammate, Esther Wanjiru, you see her back. She's moved into fourth place. So Kenyans running third and fourth at the moment. And here's the distance. It's about just less than 30 seconds from Chepchumba to the two leaders, Takahashi and Simone. That's the time difference, about just less than 30, and the actual distance, as you see, that's Chepchumba in third. And the margin now down to 39 seconds is the margin now. So the two leaders starting to pull away.
I see you're trying to figure out the tactics, Tom. And what it is, if the leaders are running a 5:30 mile and you can run a 5:20 mile, you'll catch them in 3 miles at this point, you know, with a 30-second lead, or that's about 250 yards.
Takahashi and Simone, Japan and Romania, leading the women's marathon through the streets of Sydney.
Starting to metabolize a fair amount of their protein through the training sessions and the mileage that they do. Maintaining their training sessions and working at their heart rate zone that teaches their body to become wonderful fat burners. Here's Karen McCann. Karen's still running quite strongly and looking good in 13th place there. And let's hope that she's able to pick up a couple, because there's still a lot of running to do, and there are a lot of those women in front of her that are going to find the hills that are coming up very, very difficult.
Past the Italian Visconti, who we saw at the start of the race. So Karen still having a very good run here, but the gold and silver is going to be fought out, you would think, between Takahashi and Simone, the Chepchumba. When we saw that overhead shot, we saw the distance between Chepchumba and also the two leaders. So there's Karen McCann as we go back to the leaders, Takahashi and Simone, stride for stride inside the last 10 kilometres of the women's marathon.
Women's Olympic marathon runners have put the downtown Sydney area behind them now as they head out toward Homebush Bay in their destination Olympic Stadium, nearly to the 20-mile mark in the 26.2-mile race. And the leaders continue to be Naoko Takahashi of Japan on the left in the sunglasses, and Lidia Simone of Romania. But the fastest runner at the moment appears to be Joyce Chepchumba of Kenya, who has taken over third, but she's still some 50 seconds behind the two leaders. Now back at Olympic Stadium, first out on the streets. Takahashi and Simone continue to lead the marathon.
And they are running faster than the Olympic record pace for the marathon, which of course was set by Joan Benoit, now Joan Benoit Samuelson, of 2 hours 24 minutes 52 seconds in Los Angeles. But on this course, there's a lot of rolling hills over the last 6 miles of the race. Of course, I can say they're rolling hills. I'm sitting in this booth. When you're running the course, they're massive hills.
They seem like Mount Everest, I bet, at this point.
Yeah, but you know, they're rolling hills. They're not the kind of climb that you're going to put your head down and work for 10, 15 minutes to get up. They're going to be over, but they're going to be a factor in the race.
21 miles into the race. Simone and Takahashi. The Romanian rocket not only is known for her speed, but for her toughness, and she's hanging right in there with Takahashi. Back in third place, Joyce Chepchumba has taken over a clear third.
Yeah, one of the things that the huge crowds are going to do, as the leaders go by these crowds, they will not be able to hear themselves think. The other thing they won't be able to hear is the crowd noise when Joyce Chepchumba comes by. Because normally in a marathon, if there's not a lot of people, you hear the cheering and you know a person in third place is moving up on you. They're not going to know that. If Joyce is able to catch them, she's going to be able to sneak up on them. You have to be careful in a situation like this where you've broken away two people. You think, okay, this is a race for the gold medal now, but it may not be. It may be a race for the bronze medal if you're not careful.
Chepchumba's Kenyan teammate, Esther Wanjiru, you see her back. She's moved into fourth place. So Kenyans running third and fourth at the moment. And here's the distance. It's about just less than 30 seconds from Chepchumba to the two leaders, Takahashi and Simone. That's the time difference, about just less than 30, and the actual distance, as you see, that's Chepchumba in third, and the margin now down to 39 seconds is the margin now. So the two leaders starting to pull away.
I see you're trying to figure out the tactics, Tom. And what it is, if the leaders are running a 5:30 mile and you can run a 5:20 mile, you'll catch them in 3 miles at this point, you know, with a 30-second lead, or that's about 250 yards.
Takahashi and Simone, Japan and Romania, leading the women's marathon through the streets of Sydney. After the games will be converted to a football stadium with the upper deck on the end zones taken out. Our aerial photography brought to you by Goodyear, #1 in tires, maker of Aqua Tread 3. That's the goal for the runners in the women's marathon. They just passed the 21-mile mark.
You know, you talk about the tread. The leader, Takahashi, came with a bag full of shoes that were made by one of the legendary running shoemakers in Japan, and she had a bunch of different treads depending on what kind of weather she might see in the race. In fact, I'm told that this legendary shoemaker made the shoes for Frank Shorter.
Well, in the 4 previous women's Olympic marathons, the closest finish has been 8 seconds in Barcelona and 92. So far, the 2 leaders, Frank, right there together. Hard to separate them.
Hard to separate them indeed, Tom. And what happened at the last water station, Takahashi didn't take water, tried to gain on, I think, the hardest hill on the course, which starts this undulating, back in Gainesville we ran it, we call it the bacon strip. Well, this is the bacon strip of this marathon. She tried to pull away, and Lidia Simone just went right with her as if to say, nope, I can stay right here and drink my water all at the same time. And to talk about shoes, really, you have training shoes and racing shoes. And your racing shoes, you want to have something that's absolutely as light as possible, just as you would on the track. And so there really is a premium placed on determining just how little shoe you can wear, because too little, your feet will just fall apart. But you want them to be light because you've got to put your feet down so many times, it really makes an impact. So she's gotten rid of her glasses. Now, I don't know if this means like the great Kip Keino in the Olympic Games, where he would throw down his hat and then take off and try to win. But she has really put the hammer down now. She's running, and you can tell that happened because Lidia, now we see how she responds. Marty, I think this is it. I think this is where she's decided she's going to take it. Now we have to see if Lidia can hold on.
She has symbolically thrown the gauntlet down at about $120 a pair for gauntlets these days.
I noticed one of the volunteers was quick to pick up that gauntlet too, and not in a symbolic way, in a very commercial way. Takahashi is pulled a few meters ahead of Simone. They're about 56 seconds ahead of Joyce Chepchumba, who is 3rd.
Well, as I said, Takahashi visited here in May to look at the course, and may have dreamt about this moment, that this was the hill to make the move on. You study the hills, depending on how long they are, how steep they are. You practice running over them, and if your opposition hasn't, they'll be a little bit surprised.
Takahashi was...
So they're only about a minute and a half away from that 35K split. But Takahashi has really made another decisive move. He's been the aggressor all through this second half of the race, and Simone unable to respond. Another one of the 6 hills in this closing stages, and Takahashi still looking very, very strong and very smooth. Hardly changed her rhythm and technique through 35K, so 158.5, so spot on. 2:22 pace, so it's really actually kicked down quite considerably. So they've actually got to that 35K split quicker than what I thought, which is an indication of just how aggressive Takahashi is being out there. And I think, you know, Simone was very close to her threshold, and Takahashi is just broke her going up that last hill. Just temperature and 90% humidity, something like this is almost ideal conditions.
Telling, look behind. As Simone checked for 3rd place, the moment of truth may have occurred just a moment ago, and now Simone is looking at her watch, probably saying to herself, okay, about how much time till we get to that stadium? Can I keep this pace up, or do I go after her?
Takahashi edging away from Simone. And of course, Japan is crazy for marathons, but they have never been able to claim an Olympic gold medal. What would this mean back in her home country to Takahashi?
I think it means that she would eventually move to the United States, as so many marathon champions have in countries where they just cannot go to the store without being mobbed. The Japanese women, as Frank mentioned, have been training in Boulder, and one of the reasons is to be able to have the peace and quiet away from the media.
Naoko Takahashi has opened up 5 seconds now on Lidia Simone. And let's return to the Anzac Bridge and Jim Gray. Jim?
Tom, a lady named Agita Amaral. She is the first female athlete to compete from East Timor. She is one of 4 athletes that were given special dispensation by the IOC. She ran her last marathon in 1995. She just crossed the bridge about 40 minutes after the leaders. She says her best time is 3 minutes and 10 seconds. Her husband is a security guard for 3 hours and 10 minutes, rather. Her husband is a security guard for the UN forces back in Dili. Agita has joined hundreds of thousands who have had to flee the capital because of what's going on back there. Her home was looted and burned. Her shoes were charred. They were unusable, so she had to train in bare feet while on the beaches. She's one of 4 athletes, as I said. Kevin Gosper, an IOC delegate from here in Australia in June, went to East Timor. She saw Agita, saw that she was barefoot, took a white sheet of paper, traced her foot, and sent her some shoes. Those are what she is competing in today. Tom?
Thank you, Jim. So Agita Amaral, the first woman to compete in an Olympic Games for East Timor, that former Portuguese colony which is in Indonesia. Not yet an independent country, but sending an athlete to the women's marathon in Sydney. Simone toiling, trying to stay up with Takahashi. The Japanese has the lead now as they continue through the women's marathon and through the residential area of Sydney now. And they're not too far away from their ultimate destination. Just up the road, looming in the distance, will be
almost to 2 hours. Kieran McCann is in 13th place. Takahashi, Simone, Chipchumba are the leaders through 35k. Here's Kieran. Just her left arm there, just falling away a bit, but she's still going okay. And the support she's getting will help her. Still got a bit of knee lift there.
Yeah, I think she's still looking strong. You know, once she lost contact with that lead bunch just before the turnaround, it was really a matter of Karen just trying to run her own race to get out there. She knows that this is going to be a hard race, especially with the hills in the closing stages, and all she has to do is just run her own race, run strongly up the hills, try to relax and run smoothly and quickly down the hills, and try to pick up this Fernandez. And Fernandez was one of the runners who was aggressive in the early part. And this is great for Karen because she can actually focus and pick up runners and really target them.
Fernandez was 7th at 30k. Now, she has lost a lot of ground, but there's a chance that Kieran could be in the top 10 at this point. She may be around 10th, 11th. Here's Wanjuro, who's in 4th place. Remembering that Chipchumba, her Kenyan teammate, is 3rd.
Another 41 seconds to 4th place. That's Esther Wanjiru, also of Kenya.
So the fastest mile of the race, a 5:08, has just been run, and they are pulling away from 3rd place. So this may be the race for the goal, which help you in many ways, but also tactically you can't keep tabs on where your competition is by the sound of the crowds as they go back past them.
Seeing a spectator holding the Japanese flag. As we said, they're so supportive of their marathon runners. They love the sport of marathoning, and they have turned out to hope they can get that first ever gold medal. Another series of spectators holding Japanese flags, which has to be encouraging to Takahashi to see all her country mates here. There's another segment of people with some Japanese flags and then some Australian flags.
She came into the race with a lot of pressure, having run the fastest time in this year 2000 of 2:22:19.
Be able to sit on your front porch and watch an Olympic event as the marathon goes through this neighborhood, as Takahashi's legs keep churning out, and she looks very strong at the moment. Little downhill section here. Are downhills welcome, or are they kind of a hindrance at the 37-kilometer mark?
Well, it depends, especially in a race like this, where the race started with a big downhill, which beats up the front of your legs, the thighs. Then every time later on in the race, when you go downhill, it's like somebody putting a pin into your thigh. So I would say at this point, she'd rather be running uphill or on the flat than on these downhills.
Just past 23 miles, she'll take some water at the water stand, and instead of drinking it, she'll douse herself with it, then takes a gulp. She has a 14-second lead on Simone. Naoko Takahashi of Japan leads the marathon. Takahashi of Japan leads the women's Olympic marathon. There is Takahashi, who made a move a couple of miles ago. She has a 14-second lead on the second-place runner, Lidia Simone of Romania. And back in third place from Kenya, Joyce Chepchumba. She's about a minute 16 back in third place. And one of the pre-race favorites is another Kenyan, Tegla Larupe, about 90 seconds behind the leader Takahashi in ninth place.
Oh, so she's still got some hopes. But, you know, one of the things I think that is driving her, she was not chosen to run the marathon in 1996. And she felt very bad about that. She talked with me about it one time. She said, you know, it was a tribal thing. I should have been picked for the team, but I'm from the Pokot tribe, and there are no runners on the team from that tribe. And this time when they did pick her, she's just not going to drop out.
She's about 90 seconds behind the medal, 90 seconds behind the third place runner, Tegla Larupe, who many thought would win the gold medal here. Instead, the gold medal appears to be Takahashi's for the taking. She has the lead now on Simone. You can see Simone just on the right of your screen, back in second place, as they come along the freeway now in the final stages of the race toward Olympic Stadium. Takahashi beating out an even cadence with her feet. Lonely stretch here to run through without the fans that were encouraging in the residential areas. And Frank, as you see Takahashi, she appears to have no weaknesses at the moment.
When she took off, as Marty pointed out, she ran the fastest mile she'd run in the entire race, and she's keeping up the effort. She only has 4 kilometers to go, and at this point in the race, you know you've done it in your training. You know you said, oh, I just go out for 20 minutes. I'm only a third of the way into my morning run. I can do this. I can keep going. But her rhythm is just wonderful. It really, there's no apparent difference between now and her rhythm when she started the race. Lidia Simone has been continually looking around, so she is not going to come back. But Takahashi doesn't know this. What she's doing now is treading a very, very fine line. She wants to go just hard enough to know, and she's doing mental arithmetic, and she knows how fast she's running. She wants to keep a pace so that she knows at a certain point, maybe 2 miles out, she really doesn't have to run very fast at all, and she can finish. So she just wants to get within about 1.5 miles of the finish. She may then even ease off a little bit, but I don't think she's sure right now that she's got it going. But what's very significant, and what impresses me about her past performances, is that she's very, very consistent, being very, very fast. 2:21 for her best. 2:22, almost within 20 seconds of her best this year. So everyone was looking to Tegla Larupe and Fatima Roba, but I think in this sport sometimes they tend to go with past performances that are just perhaps a little bit too far in history. So here's a woman who's running on a slight downhill, never has looked around, doesn't know her lead, and yet is running the fastest miles that she's run in the entire race.
She's in mile 24, and Homebush Bay looms in the distance for Takahashi. She continues along this freeway section. Takahashi of Japan leads the women's Olympic marathon. She has a 25-second lead now over second place Lidia Simone, and is now in mile 25. And as Frank Shorter pointed out, she is continuing to run fast miles. The Olympic record 2:24:52 set by Joan Benoit in the inaugural Women's Olympic Marathon in LA in '84. Frank, looks like she might have a shot at the Olympic record.
She does have a shot, but that's not her concern now. She's actually just trying to keep her rhythm going, because believe it or not, you can actually cramp up if you slow down from a hard effort. She looked at her watch. She's seeing what she ran for that last kilometer, and now I think she'll just kind of slow down a little bit. Not much, but just imperceptibly slow down. Oh, she took a little look around. I'm not sure what's going on here. Oh, someone yelled at her in Japanese, and she took a look around.
Don't want to be distracted now. Meanwhile, back in the pack, the lone American competing, Dr. Christine Clark from Anchorage, Alaska, in 22nd place. And sponging herself off. As we said, just being here was an Olympic dream for Christine. And she seems determined to finish her 26.2-mile journey. And her form looking pretty good back in 22nd place. She's got the endurance down from that treadmill back home in Anchorage.
Well, she said she's not a short distance runner. She comes on strong the longer the race is.
She's passed a couple of runners since we've been watching her. She's up to 20th place now, so you're exactly right, Marty. She's finishing strongly. But from 20th place back up to number 1, Takahashi. She threw down the sunglasses after she had been running for several miles abreast of Lidia Simone, and when she threw down the glasses, as Marty said, threw down the gauntlet, she took off. She's passing the Olympic tennis venue there. The center court is in the circle of the grandstand with the outer courts arrayed around it. So into the Olympic Park now and leading the marathon. 25-second lead.
And of course, the Japanese, as we've shown earlier, the Japanese fans are in the stadium here. Japan has always been a great marathoning country, but never been able to win an Olympic medal. They've had so many close calls. The only thing I can think of for her to win, for these Japanese fans, it's like the Red Sox have finally won the World Series.
And the stadium approaches for Takahashi. Olympic Park in Sydney, with Stadium Australia the destination for the Olympic women's marathon runners. And Naoko Takahashi is just about to claim Japan's first ever marathon Olympic gold medal. She has been all by herself for the last few miles after putting away Lidia Simone, and she's running through Olympic Park now, soon to take the tunnel down into the floor of the stadium. The Japanese fans very much in evidence along the roadways leading to Olympic Park and inside Olympic Park itself. And as we saw earlier, a good contingent inside the stadium well, with something over 100,000 fans awaiting her arrival in this magnificent stadium. Frank Shorter, final stages now. Takahashi looks super.
Well, and she finally looked around, Tom. She looked around once at 40 kilometers, about 1.25 miles to go. Saw she's got over a 30-second lead. You do the mental arithmetic, she can run what's the equivalent of a 6-minute mile from here on in and still win this race. But she's starting to labor, you can see. She's just trying to keep up her momentum. And that was a pretty good hill they came up. It didn't look like it, but now she's, as we say, home free. Now she can really just roll. She doesn't have too long to go. And she's going to be there. She looked around again to see. Now she can relax. She can actually relax down this hill, let gravity pull her down, pull her arms up. And this is one of the greatest feelings in all of sport, to know that you're going to enter that stadium and the roar is going to be unbelievable. She won't look around again. She's just going to enjoy this now. I'm betting she has goosebumps, no question. She's coming up, and it pays.
Crowd in the stadium watching it on the big video screen, and they will just give her such an incredible lift. as she enters the stadium. A steep downhill section for her to negotiate down the ramp into the tunnel. And the Japanese flags all along the course. They've waited so long for this gold medal. They've had so many great marathon runners in the past, in the men's and women's, but never been able to secure that elusive Olympic gold medal.
So close now to fulfilling that wish, with these huge crowds cheering her on. The Japanese runners had superb support through Centennial Park in the early stages of the race, and no matter how tired she might be feeling, she is about to get an enormous lift, as she's not getting it right now, but when she moves into this stadium, there will be a huge roar. Japan has won 4 gold medals so far at these Olympics, all in judo, which is also a national and revered sport in their country. But if they could have wished for any gold medal at these Olympics in Sydney, I would have thought it would be in the marathon. And they are so close to getting their wish. But Takahashi's lead over Simon is around about 30 seconds. There's Chepchumba. Look at the crowds in front of them as they get close towards the stadium. Chepchumba, remember, no Kenyan has been able to manage a gold medal, male or female, in an Olympic marathon. Still the Japanese flags are waving in the breeze. In pretty good conditions. Karen McCann is in 12th position, 5 minutes behind Naoko Takahashi, which means she's running at about 2:27, 2:28 pace. As Takahashi keeps looking back, she'll get some directions here. She'll know the routine when she comes in through the tunnel and into the stadium, and she is oh so close. A wonderful crowd in here, waiting in expectation, ready to give out a mighty cheer. We saw Simon turn, Simon raising an effort in second place, ticking up towards 2:20, but surely the gold medal at long last will go to Japan.
Well, I just hope, Bruce, that she knows that she's well and truly clear. Simon, the telephoto lens is a little bit deceptive. I think she's still got a very, very safe lead here. Takahashi starting to struggle a little bit. She's still got a lap and a half to do inside the stadium, but so I think she's still pretty clear, and it really is one of the great things.
She's just lifted Simon a bit, hasn't she? She might just sense that Takahashi is tiring, but you get a better view here, Tig. It's still a long gap. It's probably 120, 130, 140 metres, and we are oh so close now, going down the tunnel and about to come out into the stadium.
It's almost the ultimate experience for a marathon runner, to be clear 100 metres, 80 metres in front, to run into the Olympic Stadium, to be representing your country from a country where marathon running is almost a religion. It's one of the greatest things that any athlete could ever experience. And running into the stadium, through the tunnel, it's dark, it's cool in the stadium, and then she'll run out into the arena.
Is there a greater moment in the life of a distance runner than this? This is what they dream about. So she has one lap to go. Simon comes in behind her. Takahashi on the run for home. With about 350 metres, you can see Simon in the background. She can hardly lift her legs, Takahashi, as the clock ticks over. The Olympic record is 2:24.52. And she's going to be well inside Joan Benoit's record that was set in Los Angeles back in 1984. It has been a performance to remember, as Simon is sprinting in the back straight, absolutely sprinting after Takahashi. She trails her by about 80 metres. Surely she can't get to her, but Takahashi can hardly lift her legs here. She's made all the running. No Japanese runner, male or female, has won an Olympic marathon. Kitae-san of Korea represented Japan when they were under Japanese rule in Berlin in 1936. We've waited a long, long time for this moment, and she is so dog-darn tired right now. She knows the line is getting close. Simon will come into view behind her. But what a performance by Takahashi. One to remember, more than 1.5 minutes inside the Olympic record. What a performance. And Simon coming home strongly for second. And Chipchumba's also in the stadium.
One of the most courageous marathons I think I've ever seen. Took the lead, aggressive, right from before halfway, dominated the race, ran strongly, surged up the hills over one of the most toughest marathon courses that any athlete can run in conditions that are getting warmer and warmer. Simone, so valiant, fought so hard to maintain contact, but was unable to match it going up the Anzac Bridge. Lost contact there. From then on, it was Takahashi running solely, buoyed on by the great crowds. Chipchumba
still inside Benoit's Olympic record. They're the two, first and second. What a moment there as Chipchumba's coming in. 8 seconds the margin between Takahashi and Simon. And now we're ticking over to a minute between second and third. We're past a minute, so Chipchumba's going to be inside Benoit's record, just I think of 2:24.52. So the first three home have run faster than any other women in the short history that they've been running at the Olympics. We've got Chipchumba finishing. Our fourth runner, Wanjuro, is basically running alongside of her. So 3 women inside the old Olympic record on one of the toughest courses imaginable. I don't think Chipchumba realises, but she has finished. She's still going.
Still going. But look, this is what marathon running and championships should be about.
She's asking, Dick. I think someone should pull her up here because she's
fine. She's fine.
She's got the bronze.
The great thing is to be able to come to a championship marathon in good conditions on a good championship course and see the quality runners performing well. Because for so many championship races in tough conditions in Atlanta, in Barcelona, so many of the world championships in Seville, where the athletes, the quality athletes that have dominated and run so well in the major marathons have been unable to reproduce that form. But here in Sydney, for the first time for many, many Olympics, we're actually seeing the marathon held in conditions that have given the marathon runners a chance to run up to their best. And it's great to see. Here's the fourth athlete coming in, the second Kenyan runner. It's wonderful to see Kenya getting third and fourth. Wanjuro, Wanjuro.
Karen McCann wouldn't be too far away from feeling the stadium right now. Wanjuro's going to be 4th place getter. Pigetsurova of Russia will be in 5th place, and one of the Ethiopians is in 6th place. But we're waiting for Karen McCann. She won't be too far away, the first of the Australians. There's Wanjuro 4th, so Kenya 3 and 4 behind Japan and Romania. And our first Australian won't be too far away. Pigetsurova is just finishing of Russia in 6th place in 2:26.5. There's Takahashi, there's Pigetsurova, one of the top Russians. So it's about 11 to 12 athletes out there at the moment. The first of the Ethiopians, Alimu. Alimu coming home at 16:67. So still a very respectable time. And Karen McCann's come into the stadium. Getting a tremendous cheer, as you would expect, and she has 400 metres to run, and she's probably in about 13th place, 12th place at this point, and she's going to come away with a very good finish and a very good time, as well as a strong position.
Well, Karen will be absolutely thrilled. I think she was maybe dreaming of being able to get into that top 6 or that top 8, but she's run a great race. A courageous run, still full of running, finishing it off here. Coming in great form. national record over 5,000 metres up in Brisbane only a handful of weeks ago, and was looking so comfortable in the early stages when the pack was there, but when the moves were made, she just lost contact, but has fought on bravely over the last two-thirds of the marathon. Coached by Chris Wardlaw from Bulli up around Wollongong, and she's done us proud, running a great race.
Well inside 2:30, Deacon. In fact, she's going to be around about 2:28.40. It's a terrific performance on such a course, on such a stage, and she's got to be satisfied with this effort. Still finishing with a bit of a spring in her step if it's possible.
Good on you, Karen. That's a great one.
Just outside the top 10. She lost contact with the leaders fairly early on, but she then went through maybe a patch or two, but every time we went back to her, she looked terrific. Takahashi, 2:23.14. An Olympic record, taking over a minute and a half off the great Joan Benoit's record set in Los Angeles 16 years ago. Karen McCann, we've been given as 10th place in 2:28.37, so it's Visconti of Italy, who we saw early in the race, so that's a wonderful performance to be inside the top 10.
That's great to make the top 10, the Olympic Games. Karen, running marathons for over 10 years, her first one running 2:45, and she's gradually just steadily improved over that 10-year period and has really become and established herself as one of the great marathon runners of Australia. 2:25 personal best.
Well, it's been a great race, hasn't it? There's no doubt about that. Top 8. And we've seen Karen McCann. As we look at the results, Karen McCann has finished 10th behind Takahashi, Simon and Chepchumba. They were gold, silver and bronze. Let's go down to Pat Welsh.
Karen, congratulations. With top 10, we've confirmed that 10th position in the fastest Olympic marathon ever.
It was unbelievable. I couldn't believe that it was that quick. Like, the Japanese really put the pace on, and it was amazing. I went through halfway and, you know, a PB by about 2 minutes. So, you know, I gave it my best shot, and, you know, I'm happy. I can't be disappointed with that.
All the way through listening to Robert De Costello's commentary, he said you were looking so strong.
Yeah, I felt fantastic. I felt really, really good. But as I said, I think the pace was just a bit too quick for me, and you know, it just sort of told on me on the last, you know, 30k or more going over the hills. But you know, that's the way it goes.
Those hills close to the stadium, they're soul destroying, aren't they?
Sorry,
the hills closer, the climbs closer as you get closer to the stadium, they're absolutely heartbreaking.
Yeah, they're pretty tough. They are really tough, especially if you're a little bit tired. So, I mean, even I know I was tiring and I was still passing girls. So it was funny actually to pass Tekla LaRue, you know, in the last few K. So she was the favourite.
You put the writing on the wall with that great 5,000 in Brisbane a few weeks ago. You must have felt good coming into this one.
Yeah, I did. It gave me a lot of confidence actually running, you know, Australian record over the 5K because I've been training for the marathon. So, you know, I knew that once I ran that, I'd run a good marathon.
I've asked most of the Aussie athletes this, but what about the support? You've been out there with them. They've been lining the route, and then to come into this stadium.
No, they were just screaming the whole way. It was unbelievable, just calling my name, and, you know, it was really nice.
Congratulations, 10th spot, and as I said, the fastest Olympic marathon ever. You've got a lot to be proud of today.
Thank you very much.
All the formulas that you know, but sometimes it just doesn't all come together. But Sue, you know, it's not a bad run from Sue. It's a good solid run. As you said, sub 2:40 in these tough conditions is still a pretty reasonable sort of an effort.
And Pat Welsh is with Sue now.
So just saying to me that that's about the toughest you've had to do it over the second half of the marathon.
Definitely the toughest I've ever run.
Oh. Been over that course before, and
I have. I ran it in April, and I just haven't been able to get right, basically.
About the support out there.
Unbelievable. All the way. Just Aussie, Aussie, Aussie.
Could you believe that we've seen the fastest Olympic marathon ever over that course?
No, I mean, when I saw the time when I came in, I was just amazed.
Yeah, even Kieran was saying she had to run her PB over the first half of the event, and she still felt like she was losing touch with them.
I thought, 2:26 was going to be a good run on this course. But, I mean, I'm not surprised the Japanese won it. They were very professional in